let's start the game!
This is the Anbernic RG35XX, a small emulation handheld that can emulate virtually any console from the Atari 2600 to the PlayStation 1. If you don't know what emulation is, basically it's a piece of hardware or software that's made to replicate an existing piece of hardware or software as closely as possible. Think of the PlayStation 1 Classic or the NES Mini. They're consoles that are made to replicate the home experience as closely as they possibly can. I've been spending about a week with this console already, and I've fallen in love with it so quickly. I was so interested in this console that I only found out about it 2 weeks ago, and then bought it a few days later. I was an addict before I'd even touched this thing, which is insane because I've never had an emulation console before, and I absolutely hate emulating. I hate it. My overall experience with this thing has been great. I would say amazing, but I have had a few compatibility issues which has kind of brought it down a little bit. I've installed Garlic OS on this thing, which is where most of my problems have come from, and it's strange to me because there's been so many praises that I've seen for Garlic OS, but I've had so many problems going into it. I had so many issues initially setting this up, and even a few days into actually having Garlic OS, that I almost wanted to just give up and go back to stock OS, because it's a lot more plug and play, essentially, than Garlic OS for me. For starters, PlayStation 1 games will not show unless they're in the PlayStation root folder. They can't be in their own game subfolders like you would have for the standard OS. The BIOS files also have to be in a specific BIOS folder within the systems folder. They can't be in their individual systems folder or within the root of the SD card. They have to be in this one specific folder in a specific location. For some reason, I've just had games delete themselves from the ROM's folder, and it even happened while recording footage. I don't know if the game corrupts itself, which causes it to be deleted, or what really happens, but I don't really have an answer for that. I just get kicked to the boot screen of the PlayStation where I can choose like memory cards and the disk drive, but I can't figure out what the actual problem is. I also still don't know why game art isn't showing next to my list of games. I have all the folders in the correct locations and I've set everything up correctly. I just don't know why it doesn't show. I'm willing to put this behind the reason that it's my first emulation console and I don't really know what I'm doing too well. But I feel like it could have been a lot more straightforward, especially with how much people are praising Garlic OS. The only other problem I've had with PlayStation 1 emulation is either certain games having no music or getting stuck on cutscenes. And it turns out that Garlic OS turns CD audio off by default, which is absolutely insane. You know, the thing that certain games like Rayman or Harry Potter need to be able to be played. It's just a dumb decision that wasted so much of my time. It was so frustrating. If you do have any issues with emulating, then Garlic OS does have a whole load of settings for you in each emulator. If something's not right and you know what you're doing, then the settings are right there. However, considering all of the setup issues I have had, the overall experience has been absolutely amazing. The console I've been playing on this the most is the PlayStation 1. In fact, I bought this mostly as a PlayStation 1 emulator. The PlayStation emulation on this thing is virtually one-to-one, but I have had a few hiccups every now and again with games hanging or glitching, but a quick change of the clock speed can fix that fairly easily. I've experienced this issue most with games like Harry Potter, Kingsfield and Jumping Flash, but after quickly changing the settings, it's like nothing was even wrong to begin with. In terms of controller issues, I've only had a few problems with Crash Bandicoot. The D-pad does seem to be absolutely notorious for misinputs. As Crash Bandicoot is 2.5D, I do find myself falling off of ledges sometimes when I'm quickly trying to move left or right. The D-pad seems to think that I'm trying to move up and down as well, which is kind of silly. I've seen fixes for this where you can put tape on the motherboard and it should fix the issue, but I don't particularly want to take this thing apart, so it will do for now. The overall build quality of this is great. It feels like a genuine retail product, like a Game Boy. All of the buttons have the right amount of travel and are made of a high quality plastic. The contacts don't feel too mushy or too stiff, they feel just right. I have had a couple occasions where my thumbs would get a little bit greasy, and because the ABXY buttons are made of a high gloss plastic instead of the textured plastic like the other buttons, they'd get a bit slippery and it just doesn't feel great when that happens. The L and R shoulder buttons could really be a lot better. They're level across the back, so if you've got smaller hands you might struggle with pushing specific buttons, so you just be careful with that. There are third-party options available where you can change these buttons to be angular instead, but that means taking the whole system apart and changing the buttons over and then putting it back together, so only do that if you really feel comfortable with that. My biggest issue with these buttons is that they rattle like nobody's business. I mean, you can give this thing a shake and then people within a 3-block radius will be able to hear you. That's an over-exaggeration, but you get what I mean, they're loud. The screen looks fantastic, especially with bright and vibrant games. There's honestly so many games that look absolutely amazing on this system. The screen is a 640 by 480 IPS panel, which looks great for older systems, and Garlic OS also gives you some additional video features to make the experience feel more authentic, but I don't think they're completely necessary. Well, personally at least. You might have some resolution problems with the GBA where you'll either have bands along the top or a stretched resolution, but apart from that, everything else works great. The speaker is by far the weakest part of the system, but for the price you pay, it does do what it's supposed to, which is play sound.
Captain Wesker, where's Chris?
Stop it! Don't open that door!
But Chris is...
What is it?
If you're looking for a high quality audio experience, you're definitely not going to find it here, but with some headphones you should be perfectly fine. Oh, by the way, all of the audio you're hearing in this video has just been captured with the audio jack at the bottom, just with a standard 3.5mm cable. It's just going straight into my mixer, and you can hear it now.
Oh, it's been peaceful here in the 5 worlds, or is it 6? For a dragon's age. We now have 12,000 treasure, or is it 14,000?
Throughout my time with the Anbernic RG35XX, there are a couple of things I've realised. The first thing is that I absolutely suck balls at running high.
Watch out! Hey, you're going the wrong way!
Secondly, this is the type of system I would love to take with me wherever I go. The more I play this thing, the more I find myself in more comfy and cozy locations. Curled up on the sofa, sitting on the toilet, it's perfect. I've taken this thing with me on days out, when I've been to work. It's just a great little thing to have with me. Being able to bring something like Castlevania, GTA 2 or Guardians Crusade with me wherever I go, play some and then put it away again, is just so convenient. I know systems like the Switch and the Steam Deck exist, but this is so compact and easy to carry around. Why would you not raise an eyebrow at this little thing? It's just perfect. Now I've just got to wait for the English translation of Boku no Natsuyatsumi to release, and then I'm all set. I also just wanted a reason to reference Boku no Natsuyatsumi in a video, and now I have, so I'm happy. The final question in this video is, should you get an Anbernic RG35XX? And I think the answer is maybe. Honestly, the answer just depends on your current situation. If you're someone that travels a lot, that just wants something to keep you occupied on your journeys, then the RG35XX will absolutely do that for you. On the flip side, if you're someone with a powerful PC and you don't travel anywhere near as much, then I don't think this is for you. Your PC can do just as good of a job and then some compared to the RG35XX.
Alternatively,
if you're neither of those and you just like huddling on the sofa and you want something cozy to play, then absolutely check this out. It's something that you can play just like huddled up in the corner. It's small, it's compact. You don't really have to worry about like a big screen or something. It's just something really small that you can bring with you. The price of this device can fluctuate a lot depending on where you look. I got mine off of Amazon with free next day shipping, but I can imagine you can find it somewhere else that's just quite a bit cheaper. If you do decide to get one, then I recommend doing one thing before anything else. Get yourself 2 micro SD cards, one preferably a larger one, roughly about 128 gigabytes will be fine, and then another one will be a slightly smaller size. Put the OS of your choice onto the smaller SD card, and then the larger one you can just use for ROMs. There are many guides for different OS available online, but if you do want to use Garlic OS, then I'll leave a little link down in the description for a step-by-step guide on how to set it up. The reason I'm suggesting this is because the RG35XX ships with a very unreliable SD card that looks like this. Yeah, that like screams reliability, doesn't it? You will absolutely want to make sure that you back up everything on your system before you do anything else. Oh, and replace the ROMs with whatever you want. The stock ROMs aren't great, and the numbering system that they've used is absolutely stupid, so I'd say it's best to probably just start from scratch. So there you go, my personal experience with the RG35XX and Garlic OS. So if you've got an RG35XX, what do you think about it? Are you happy with it? Are you disappointed? Is there another one you'd recommend instead? Go ahead and leave the comments down below. I'd be happy to hear what everyone else really has to say. I'd say the whole journey of setting it up really just depends on person to person, so let me know what you guys think down below and I'd be really interested. And with that, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go play some Pepsi Man in the safety of my own bathroom. Bye.